And we're back with Marco Rubio, who is at the airport in Arkansas, getting ready to head off to the next Super Tuesday campaign state. Senator, I'd like to ask you about a Washington Post headline this morning that says, quote, Rubio's strategy for Super Tuesday is survival. Do you agree with that characterization?
No, I don't. I mean, obviously, we're not the front runner here. We're an underdog, and that's a role that I relish. I've been an underdog my whole life, both in life and in politics. We're going to do well. We're going to pick up a lot of delegates on Super Tuesday. As you know, they're awarded proportionally. And we're going to move on. Here's what's never going to happen in this race. There's never going to be a time where the Republican Party rallies around and says you have to get out, or anyone has to get out for purposes of rallying around Donald Trump. Donald Trump's not a Republican. Donald Trump's not a conservative. Donald Trump is trying to pull off the biggest scam in American political history, basically a con job where he's trying to take over the Republican Party by telling people he's someone who he's not. And so we're going to do whatever it takes. We will be in this race as long as it takes. We're going to be in as many states as it takes to ensure that I'm the nominee and that Donald Trump never gets to 1,236 delegates, which is what he needs to be the nominee.
What we hear in that answer is that recently your campaign's gotten a lot scrappier about Donald Trump. The question from some, though, is it too little too late?
I don't think so, for a couple reasons. One, look, I never wanted it to get to this point. I had hoped that by its own course, by the way the media covers politics, people would open their eyes and see who Donald Trump really is. But that, unfortunately, has not happened. The polls and the early states indicate that he's been able to fool a significant number of people into believing that he is something that he's not. Donald Trump is a world-class con artist. He conned all these people that signed up for Trump University. Now he's trying to do the same thing to Republican voters. He's trying to convince them that somehow he's the guy that's going to stand up to illegal immigration, but he hires illegal immigrants. That he's fighting for American workers, but he's hiring foreign workers for his hotels. That he's going to bring back jobs from China and from Mexico, but in fact he's creating jobs in China and Mexico because that's where all of his suits and ties that he sells are made. It's a con job. It's a scam, and we're going to unveil it here. We're going to reveal it, and I believe the more people learn about that, the less support he's going to have in the weeks to come.
Donald Trump has won in 3 states. You say the voters there were conned. What does that say about the voters in those states?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the media coverage as well. I mean, I'm not speaking about you in particular, John, but the media coverage for Donald Trump has been almost cheerleading over the last couple of weeks, and I'm convinced it's because many in the press want him to be the nominee. One, I think they think it's going to be good for ratings, and two, because they know they have a lot of material to work with. If Donald Trump were to ever become the nominee, immediately the hounds of hell would descend on him. They're going to tear him apart, everything he's ever done, from not releasing his taxes to all of his failed business dealings. And Hillary Clinton's going to have a clear shot to the Oval Office. And so I think there are many out there that are rooting for that outcome so that he's the nominee, and you can see it in the coverage he's gotten. I mean, this guy has not offered a single serious policy proposal, which is important if you want to be president of the United States. And again, the other night at the debate, he refused to outline a health care plan. I mean, and they just kind of moved on instead of pressing him on it. He gave a ridiculous answer on the national debt, and they moved on without pressing him on it. No other candidate could have gotten away with that. So I think there's a weird bias here in the media rooting for Donald Trump because they know he's the easiest Republican to beat.
Let me ask you about all the things you've now said about Donald Trump. You said he's running a big scam. It's a con job. So how can you possibly still then retain the position that if he's the nominee, you'll support him?
Because he's never going to be the nominee. So I'm not worried about a hypothetical that's never going to happen. Donald Trump will never have 1,236 delegates, which is what he needs to be the Republican nominee. It won't happen. In fact, I know I can get those delegates, and we're going to continue to work hard to make that happen. So all of these things we're talking about now, it will take time to sink in, but when voters begin to realize what we're really up against here and what he's trying to do, I think you're going to see a sea shift here pretty quickly.
What's confusing about that, though, is you say if he were the nominee, it would destroy the conservative movement. You're painting scary pictures of him
Absolutely.
being the nominee, but then you're saying he'll never be the nominee. You signed on to the hashtag Never Trump. I guess what people wonder is you say all these terrible things about him, but then why might you not, like Chris Christie, who said bad things about him, just turn around and endorse him once he gets the nomination?
Well, he's not going to be the nominee because we are not going to allow, people will wake up and we're not going to allow a con artist to take over the party of Lincoln and Reagan. I mean, he is pulling off a world-class scam here. I mean, he's telling people he's all these things that he's never been his entire life. He says he's fighting for the little guy, the working class. He has spent his entire business career sticking it to working people.
Let me ask
when
you,
his projects go under, the first people that don't get paid are the contractors. Some of them have gone bankrupt. They're calling me. I mean, I'm getting nonstop emails and calls now from people that have been scammed by Donald Trump, and their stories are heartbreaking.
let me ask you this, Senator. You say you're going to stop him. Are you going to have to win? Are you going to win Florida? He says he's going to beat you there.
Absolutely. No, we're going to win Florida. Florida's not going to vote for a con artist like Donald Trump. Again, look, he has the benefit of the fact that he's dominated media coverage. I mean, literally dominated media coverage because of the outrageous things he says and so forth. That's going to end here. There's going to be a real fight now for the heart and soul of the Republican Party and the conservative movement, and it is not. I will do whatever it takes to prevent it from being taken over by a con artist, and I ask people to sign up to our effort at marcorubio.com so that together we can make this happen.
Let me ask you, you say you'll do whatever it takes. Your campaign manager's been talking about a contested convention, which means taking it all the way to the convention. In that case, you'd be basically taking the nomination away from Donald Trump. Wouldn't that just cause an uproar from all those people who voted for him, who've given him their support? Wouldn't that just create calamity in the party?
Well, my preference is that we beat him outright in the primary process, and I believe that's exactly what's going to happen here in the next few weeks, especially as we move to winner-take-all states. The terrain begins to change, and I feel very good about it. I don't think it's going to get to that. But let me just say, the rules are what they are in the Republican Party. You have to have X number of delegates in order to be the nominee. And if you don't have those number of delegates, then there's a process in place. Here's what would be a calamity. For Donald Trump to become our nominee. If he's our nominee, it could be the end of the Republican Party. It will split us and splinter us in a way that we may never be able to recover, and the Democrats will be joyful about it. It's not going to happen.
We're going to have to end it there. Senator Rubio, thanks so much, and we'll be right back.